وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، وبعد. يروي الشيخان فيما اتفقا عليه من حديث ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. The hadith, the main collection of Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim, narrated to us by Abdullah ibn Abbas. And the theme for the next 4 weeks is going to be Ramadan, the preparation for Ramadan. So I'm going to narrate as many hadith as possible, talking about the beauty of the month, the rewards of the month, and what the Prophet ﷺ was like before and throughout the month of Ramadan, as a way for us to contemplate and reflect and prepare ourselves, inshallah, for it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the blessing and the bounty and the reward of attending the beautiful month of Ramadan. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the reward of Ramadan at the end of it as well. Allahumma ameen. So what Ibn Abbas says here, he tells us what the Prophet, he says something about the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. قال ابن عباس كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أجود الناس بالخير. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was the most generous person when it came to khair, to doing anything that was beneficial. Anything that was beneficial. The Prophet ﷺ was the most generous person in offering khair, whether it was offering wealth or with offering knowledge or time or commitment, whatever it was. The Prophet ﷺ, whatever he had ﷺ to offer, he offered it, and he was the most generous of people with khair. قال وكان أجود ما يكون إذا لقيه جبريل في رمضان يعرض عليه القرآن. And the most generous time for him ﷺ in his life was during Ramadan, when Jibreel would meet him and they would do a revision of the Qur'an. So Jibreel, the Prophet ﷺ had with Jibreel an annual time, an annual meeting, or an annual period of time where they would do a revision. It was Ramadan. Jibreel would come and the Prophet ﷺ would revise the whole Qur'an, or what was revealed of the Qur'an up to that moment, with Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam. So the Prophet, and he would meet Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam once a day, so daily. So every day throughout Ramadan, the Prophet alayhi salam would meet Jibreel. That was rare. He didn't meet Jibreel that frequently. But in Ramadan it was daily, and they would revise the Qur'an. So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam would see that as an extra, like it was something, it was a blessing that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam saw to be extremely valuable, that he was meeting Jibreel every day, that he was revising the Qur'an with him every day. So he would use that time to be more generous than normal. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants you a blessed time in your life, the best thing to do is to be very generous. Is to do something of khair to mark that blessed time that you have. We tend to take the opportunity of beautiful moments to receive things from others, when really the Islamic culture of celebrating beautiful or sacred moments is to give something, which is why on both Eids, one you give sadaqah, the other one you perform udhiyah and you give meat. So in both of our Eids, we don't really receive things, we offer them. Like you're not giving zakat al-fitr to your friend and he's giving it to you. It's not, you're giving it to people who are poor or need it. And the udhiyah, you're offering it to people who are needy. And so you're not really necessarily receiving anything. That's how we celebrate. We celebrate beautiful moments by giving something. So the Prophet ﷺ, that was his culture. It was Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was granting him this blessing of revising the Qur'an with Jibreel. He would be more generous, the most generous. فقال ابن عباس فإذا لقيه جبريل في رمضان يعرض عليه القرآن كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أجود بالخير من الريح المرسلة. So he would emphasize the point, Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, and say, so when Jibreel would meet him during Ramadan to recite the Qur'an, the Prophet ﷺ was more generous than winds sent with rain. Then the winds that are sent with rain, the Prophet ﷺ, that's his memory of the Prophet ﷺ, that he would be more generous than winds sent with rain whenever Jibreel was with him. And that's also the blessing of the month itself. So one of the important aspects is prepare yourself in Ramadan to think and plan for good things to do within the month. Do acts of khair, acts of service to others, so that you're emulating the Prophet ﷺ within this beautiful month and this blessed month. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the blessing of it. يروي الشيخان فيما اتفقا عليه من حديث ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أجود الناس بالخير وكان أجود ما يكون في رمضان إذا لقيه جبريل يعرض عليه القرآن فإذا لقيه جبريل في رمضان يعرض عليه القرآن كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أجود بالخير من الريح المرسلة. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك وعظم على نبينا وحبيبنا محمد